on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, and Nana Akua on your TV, radio and online. We're here with you all the way through until midday with an action-packed show for you today.
So all of today's big top stories, lots to talk about, expert guests and our opinions as usual, as you would expect. So make sure you get in touch with us with your thoughts. gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll be getting to those throughout the day. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good morning, it's 10:02. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Excuse me. The British-Iranian charity worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has finally been reunited with her family in the UK. The emotional reunion came after the 43-year-old was released from detention in Iran, where she'd been held for 6 years. Fellow British-Iranian Anousheh Ashuri was also released after being detained in Iran for nearly 5 years. Their plane touched down in the early hours of this morning at RAF Brize Norton. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says it's fantastic to see them safely back in Britain.
It's been a really difficult 48 hours. The expectation that they would be released, but we weren't sure right until the last minute. So it's been very emotional, but also a really happy moment for the families. And I'm pleased to say that both Nazanin and Anousheh are in good spirits and they're safe and well back here in Britain.
Ukrainian authorities say survivors are emerging after a Russian airstrike hit a theatre sheltering hundreds of civilians. The mayor of Mariupol has said the bomb shelter in the building withstood the shelling, but the number of casualties remains unclear. President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of intentionally targeting the theatre. A satellite image before the strike appeared to show the word children written in Russian on the pavement. Moscow has denied its involvement in the shelling. Meanwhile, President Zelensky said peace talks are still ongoing with the Kremlin.
My priorities during the negotiations are absolutely clear. The end of the war, guarantees of security, sovereignty, restoration of territorial integrity, real guarantees for our country, real protection for our country.
Vladimir Putin has described Joe Biden's comments as unforgivable after the US president called him a war criminal. The White House press secretary says President Biden was speaking from the heart as Moscow's attacks on civilians continued overnight. But Russia's Security Council says the US is stoking what they call Russia-phobia. President Putin has called for a self-purification to rid his country of anyone who questions the invasion. Former US government advisor Professor Colleen Graffi told GB News the Russian leader must be held accountable.
Really, it's up to the international community to ensure that Putin, and it is Putin, it's clearly not Russia, as we're seeing from the protests of Russian people throughout the world, It is Putin's war, and he will be held accountable for it. And the fact that Biden called him a war criminal, I think, is completely appropriate.
The Ministry of Defence says the Russian invasion of Ukraine has largely stalled on all fronts. The latest intelligence update shows Russian forces have made minimal progress on land, sea and air and continue to suffer heavy losses. It adds the vast majority of Ukrainian territory, including all major cities, remains in Ukrainian hands. Other news now, women may be able to continue to access abortion care at home. Peers in the House of Lords have voted to overturn government plans to end the service, which was introduced during the first COVID lockdown in March 2020. Health Secretary Sajid Javid says at-home care was meant to be a temporary measure, but peers argue removing the choice represents a rollback of women's rights. Government proposals for new internet safety laws are being introduced to Parliament today after a number of major updates. The online safety bill has been 5 years in the making. The legislation will force social media platforms to prevent users from seeing harmful content. Regulators will also have the power to fine companies or block access to sites that fail to comply. Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell told GB News she thinks this will make a difference, but there's still a long way to go.
Of the real concerns that I and others who are scrutinising and looking at these issues have is this sort of David and Goliath, where we've got a small British kind of regulator trying its very best to regulate the policies and the impact of some of these giant social media companies. So that's why we've been calling for a long time for tougher sanctions.
Well, some news, Justin, we can bring you. P&O Ferries has suspended all sailings ahead of a major announcement later today. They've apologised for any disruption caused, and we'll bring you more on that as we get it, of course. Well, this is GB News. As I just said, we'll bring you more as soon as it happens. Now, to the point.
Good morning. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Nana Akwe, and Patrick Christys on TV, online and on digital radio. And we've got a great show lined up for you to kickstart your day. So here's what's on the menu.
Right, well, it's 3 weeks to the day since Russia began its military invasion of Ukraine. Joining us to talk about it and the UK's response to the conflict is Colonel James Sunderland, the Conservative MP for Bracknell and Parliamentary Private Secretary to the ministerial team at the Ministry of Defence. Who better to talk to, eh?
And, of course, Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, at last, some good news. The British Iranian aid worker who's held in Iran for nearly 6 years has landed back home here in the UK. Our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, gives us more details.
Yeah, what a relief that must be, hey? Happy St Patrick's Day, everybody. It's my special day.
You're not wearing green. You're not wearing
I've got a bit of a green tie on. Anyway, right. Our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, joins us live from Downpatrick ahead of the festivities. And if you're up to anything exciting, please send in your photos and your stories. Try to remember it later tonight as well, ladies and gentlemen.
And we have all of that coming up and much more across the programme, and you can get in touch in the usual way. GB Views at gbnews.uk. But first, Patrick gives his views on the West needing to toughen up.
It's time for us all to get real. What's going on in Ukraine should be a wake-up call for us all. For far too long now, we've been obsessed with microaggressions, historic wrongs, unconscious bias, and whether or not primary school children have been born into the wrong body. These are the kind of things that you can worry about in society when you have nothing else on. But we have got a lot on at the moment, a heck of a lot. The war in Ukraine doesn't appear to be coming to an end anytime soon, and the risk of escalation is massive. We have a cost of living crisis that's set to plunge people into poverty. Potentially, millions of people will have to choose whether to heat or eat. War hammers home what's really important: national security and money. We've weakened ourselves with internal issues, tearing at the very fabric of our society. Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine and Nicola Sturgeon apologised to dead witches. For goodness sake, we need to wake up and focus on the bigger issues. I can't help but feel like our radar is all off. For example, we're hiring diversity officers in the NHS at the same time as having record waiting times. It just feels like we're missing the point, doesn't it? I think we've been burying our heads in the sand for a very, very long time. We've sleepwalked into a situation where we handed our manufacturing to China, weakened our armed forces, made several disastrous foreign policy decisions in the Middle East, allowed China to cultivate huge amounts of soft power all over the world, especially in Africa, given Russia the capacity to essentially turn our gas off. We've rendered ourselves vulnerable, and we've made ourselves look vulnerable as well. And while we've been talking about overturning the result of a democratic referendum and watching a load of unemployed nutters glue themselves to a motorway, our enemies have been plotting. I'm convinced that we're witnessing the shifting of the world order, a kind of great reset, in a way. And if we don't get a grip, then we could be left behind. While we've been pontificating about witches, struggling to define what a woman is, and being lectured on insulation by a man who hasn't even insulated his own home, it appears we've taken our eye off the ball and got the basic stuff wrong. Our borders have become a joke. We're possibly about to reduce our military to its smallest level since 1714. Millions of people are struggling to get basic healthcare treatment, and our education system has become a hotbed of childhood indoctrination. We have to get a grip now, before it's too late. Do you feel like we're missing the point a bit?
I think we missed the point a long, long time ago, to be fair. I mean, I think it pretty much started with the selling of our manufacturing base, ruining that, then privatising industries in a sense, but by selling things like water, you know, to other people in different countries, selling gas, selling electricity. I mean, it was, at one point, it was British gas, wasn't it? And
yeah.
We, the taxpayer, and we, the country, owned it. Then we foolishly thought, well, we can privatising things that we shouldn't have done. And then there's the whole Vladimir Putin. People keep saying, oh, he must be mad or something like that, as if they're giving him almost a half excuse for his behaviour. There's got to be something wrong with him to be. Look, so there are people on Earth like that. And as we, you know, Patrick and I were talking earlier, and I mean, you know, this is a sort of regime that's prepared to poison people, literally, and let people die in this way. That this person's not going to have any love for other human life.
No, he's not going to suddenly start caring about human life now, is he? And look, again, you know, obviously not excusing any of the kind of diabolical behaviour that Putin's done, but part of me thinks, you know, when you look at it, he probably thought it was fair game in a way. He's looking at us now, you know, and we've weakened ourselves massively. We're talking about microaggressions, unconscious bias and all this stuff. And, you know, actually, you know, Putin's been massing an army on the Ukrainian border for however long, and he's cracked on, hasn't he?
Well, that's the thing. And we thought that he wasn't going to invade, what, with 100,000 troops on the border? I don't know about that. Well, look, we've seen what's happening now. And, of course, UK intelligence is reporting that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has largely stalled on all fronts as the conflict enters its fourth week.
Yeah, well, US President Joe Biden has called Russian President Vladimir Putin a, quote, war criminal for the hundreds of civilian deaths in this conflict, as Russia bombed a theatre in Mariupol where between 1,000 and 1,200 people were sheltering overnight.
I mean, more than 60,000 refugees fled Ukraine yesterday, seeking refuge in neighbouring countries. And our reporter Rosie Wright is in one of those neighbouring countries, and she joins us from Budapest in Hungary. Rosie.
Yeah, good morning to both of you. Hundreds of women and children from Ukraine have arrived here in Budapest just this morning, and volunteers here are trying to make life as comfortable as possible for people in the most distressing situations. You can pick up spare clothing, shoes over here, food. There's a whole processing centre here where you can work out what train you might want to get. Pretty much from this station you can get to anywhere then in the EU. Someone who's made that journey this morning with her daughter is Yana, who I'm just going to interrupt over here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Let me come to this side. Just explain, you've come with your daughter, other members of your family this morning. At what point did you decide we can't stay in Ukraine any longer?
Because we saw situation in another city. We understand that people there have very bad situation. They don't have food, they don't have water even. They can sit on the ground maybe 10 days. So I don't want that my kids have same situation. So we decided go to another country. Also, I'm afraid about my daughter. I know information what Russian soldiers make with our women. So it's terrible, it's not normal. So I take my kids, my friend also, a woman, she also take 2 kids and we come here. And then we will go to Spain because it's more free place for Ukrainian people now.
How do you decide where to go? I know you arrived in Budapest 2 hours ago, and then what?
We watch news, we read in internet information where which country can help to us more, and even if it's help for 2-3 days for live free and some food, it can help, because when you come to another country, you don't know where you can find something where you can stay. So we decided like this. We check which country don't have a lot of people, because also we understand that in other countries, they trying to help us, but we understand some of them don't have a lot food, don't have a lot apartments, so we understand it and we respect how much they trying to help us. So we decided go to Spain because more free place. We don't want to make terrible situation to another country.
I've got to ask, we're broadcasting in the UK. Did you consider going there?
I don't know. I think it's a more long way for us. Also, we decided to go with our animals. So we thinking it will be more hard for them. So we decided come now here, and then we won't go to Germany, but last 3 days more people come there. So and we understand no free place. We go more down to Spain.
Jana, thank you so much for talking to us, and just best of luck for your continuing journey on the way to Spain. Lots of people actually trying to get to Germany and France who are then heading over there. Those trains, there's quite a long wait to get onto them. You can't just get on the next one. You've got to head down there. If you go with your Ukrainian passport, you get a free ticket to any location you want to, but you might not be able to go as fast as you want to. People are being put up for free in accommodation, getting food so they can have safety here in Budapest until they make their onward journey.
Yes, Rosie, thank you very much. Rosie, right there from Budapest. Have you actually been to Budapest?
I've never been there, no.
It is stunning. Absolutely wonderful place. Anyway, right, moving on. James Sunderland is a Conservative MP for Bracknell and is the Parliamentary Private Secretary to the ministerial team at the Ministry of Defence. And he joins us now. There he is. Right. Well, look, I suppose, what do you make of Putin's latest announcements? I thought he looked relatively deranged, but I mean, where are you on all this whole issue?
Well, I think it's obvious from all concerned that it's going very badly for Putin. It's going badly tactically, operationally and strategically. Russian forces are now pinned down. The Ukrainian army is providing much stronger resistance than anybody expected, including the Russians. And the resilience of the Ukrainian people is remarkable. So Zelensky is doing a great job as their leader. And I'm afraid it's time to get to the talking table. It's time for Russian forces to concede defeat and pull out.
Do you think that because watching it, especially with regard to the tanks, the way they sort of seem to have stalled, then they all went off in different directions. Do you think they've actually lost communication with the head of control or something? Because it feels as though all the tanks, the military are able to talk to each other, but it doesn't feel like they're able to talk to a commander-in-chief or something. I mean, the fact that they bombed the peacekeeping mission and things like that, it feels like there's a loss of communication somewhere.
Yes, I haven't got the definitive answer for you, but it's quite clear from feeds that I've seen that there has been a breakdown in command and control. You've got a conscript army that's refusing to fight. The moral argument at the moment does not sit with the Russians. These are young people who do not want to shoot civilians. You've got logistic problems. You've got convoys that are pinned down. You haven't got air superiority, total air superiority. So the Ukrainian anti-air weapons are proving very effective. And of course, the weather. You've got vehicles that are pinned down in bogs and in mud. It's a bit of a disaster. And at this point in time, I think that Putin needs to realise that his plan has not worked, and therefore plan B.
Well, he's not yet, but he's not going to do that, is he? He's going to keep going until he takes Ukraine, I would have thought. And also, as well, I can't help but just take slight issue with something that you said there about. I get that, some of these Russian soldiers are young conscripts. I'm absolutely certain that not all of them knew they were invading Ukraine when it first kicked off. There's no doubt about that. But we also see them running over civilians with their tanks, or a video yesterday about a tank just firing at an old guy as he got out of the car with his hands up. Some of these Russians are bang up for it, aren't they?
Yeah, but it is inconsistent. I think the reports that we're seeing do vary depending on where you're looking. And of course, yesterday's events with the targeting of the theatre, absolutely appalling. And if the word children was written outside and it was deemed to be a precision attack, what you've got there is an act of genocide. You've got deliberate targeting of civilians. These are war crimes. Putin was absolutely right yesterday. But of course, there are two kinds of weapon. There's precision weapons that are very accurate, so they are literally dispatched to hit a particular target. Or you've got area weapons that are more indiscriminate, which is equally bad. So whichever way you look at this, whichever prism you look through, it's a pretty appalling act by Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, it is devastating, and it seems a bit ridiculous at the end of it, because I can't really see what will actually be the end for this, other than either the flattening of Ukraine, so all Putin will have is a concrete jungle and basically a massacre on his hands. Where do you see, if there are peace talks, what kind of agreement do you think they could come to?
Well, I mean, I think that the answer depends.
Oh, we've lost him.
Oh, well, there we go. Putin's got him.
Oh, no, I hope not. I hope not. Say that. What do you think, he's eating him?
Yeah,
Yes, eating him.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
There you go. Sorry, as you were.
I'm back. It's obviously Wi-Fi, but very briefly, I think that ultimately we have to analyse the reasons why Putin went into Ukraine in the first place, and I think that the solution lies amongst that. But the Ukrainians must not concede ground. They must not make promises never to join NATO. They need to capitalise on the success they've had tactically. Yes, there's been a huge and horrible humanitarian cost, and my heart goes out to all the Ukrainian people. But the bottom line is that there's a precedent been set here that the international community, must not allow dictators like Putin to willfully, without precedent, without justification, invade a sovereign neighbour. And I think there is also a wider precedent here that has to be set. We cannot reward failure. We cannot reward errors of judgment.
No. Thank you very, very much for joining us and giving us your sage wisdom on the very latest from Ukraine, of course. And it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because, of course, as he mentioned there, rightly so, Putin did. It does look like the targeting of civilians is now part of a tactic.
It does, to me, that is. I think James was absolutely sort of on the money with regard to, because obviously there's two different types of weaponry, aren't they? And the ones that they're using that seem to be targeting the civilians are the precision ones. So it's just totally unacceptable. Well, after the break, British-Iranian aid worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has landed in the UK. We will explore under what conditions she was released from Iran after the weather.
Hi there, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. A chilly start for most of us this morning, but a bright one. And actually today promises plenty of dry weather with sunny spells. A real contrast compared to yesterday. That's because yesterday's weather fronts are now moving away and in their place a ridge of high pressure building in. But a couple of other features are approaching the northwest. They'll bring some showery rain into Western Scotland, Northern Ireland during the morning, and then that showery rain crossing the rest of Scotland and perhaps giving a few showers as well for Northern England and North Wales. Away from that, after a chilly start, much of the rest of England and Wales stays dry and bright. Wall-to-wall sunshine in places and temperatures rising as a result. 15, 16 Celsius in the southeast, 13, 14 in the southwest. Feeling colder further north, 9 to 12 degrees for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and increasingly cold actually for the northwest of Scotland, with those showers during the evening falling as snow over the hills above 100 metres, sleet and hail at lower levels, brisk breeze as well. But overnight the showers tend to push north, and widely we'll see dry weather across the UK by dawn tomorrow and clear skies. Not clear everywhere. There will be some cloud for Wales and Western England, and as a result, frost-free here. But where we've got the clear skies, a few fog patches and some frost first thing tomorrow. But tomorrow looks pretty good across the board. It looks like from the far north of Scotland to the far south of England, it's going to be staying dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine, just some fair weather cloud here and there, Northern Ireland, Southern Scotland, Northern England, the Midlands perhaps. So cloudier at times. But where we get the sunshine, 15, 16 Celsius possible in the south, 13, 14 further north. Saturday is looking even warmer. Could get 18 Celsius in the far northwest of Scotland. But it's going to be breezy in the south and the east, feeling cool in that breeze. More sunshine on Sunday.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is 10:27. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, and of course the wonderful Nana Akua on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning.
And there's so much to do. I mean, of course, great news this morning. British-Iranian aid worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and dual national Anousheh Ashouri have landed in the United Kingdom after being freed from Iran. And our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, tells us more.
Back on British soil. After 6 long years in an Iranian prison, it took just 6 short hours for Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe to arrive home last night. Welcomed by her delighted and grateful husband Richard and 7-year-old daughter Gabriella.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably a couple of days peace and quiet somewhere else, and then back here, the first thing she always wanted to do was to me make a cup of tea, so which we will do. I think actually we were looking at the house, so it needs a bit of tidying as well, so there might be a bit of tidying, perhaps directed by Mummy when she comes back.
The deal to get Nazanin back followed prolonged negotiations between the Foreign Office and the Iranian regime. But in the end, it saw Britain settle a $400 million 40-year debt for tanks that we sold but never delivered.
I pushed officials to be as creative as possible in finding a way to resolve this situation, and they have worked round the clock to find a viable payment route. We have considered and exhausted many options in the process, but I can tell the House we have found a way to make the payment in full, in compliance with UK and international sanctions and global counter-terrorism financing and anti-money laundering regulations. A sum of £393.8 million has now been paid, which will only be available for humanitarian purposes.
This is only part of the story, though. Iran has a new government, relations have improved. And the wider politics of Russian sanctions has meant Britain is having to look to the Middle East for her energy security. It's no coincidence that Boris Johnson is in the region this week. Iran, Qatar and Saudi Arabia may well be needed. But for Nazanin, this isn't about the wider politics, but the end of an awful nightmare.
At the heart of this story is a real human tragedy, an innocent family separated now for years. And as you say, an incredibly brave family. Richard has been on hunger strike twice. Nazanin's been on hunger strike. Nazanin and Richard are 2 of the very bravest people I know.
After 6 years, that nightmare is now over, and a family have been reunited. Darren McCaffrey, GB News.
Nasty, that's lovely, isn't it? I'm so pleased because I actually spoke to Richard a couple of months ago when he did his last hunger strike, and I said to him that I'm really praying for him and I'm really hoping that something good will happen soon, and it has. Yeah. I'm so pleased.
I don't think we can ever imagine what that must feel like,
no.
really, mustn't it? You know, Nazanin coming back finally, just seeing that footage as well of her, you know, getting off the plane, the child running towards her, and this, that, and the other. I mean, yeah, hopefully she can just have a normal life now.
Well, and isn't it nice that she's got somebody who actually loves her? Sorry, to wait for her.
It's emotional,
but no, because of the fact that, because I mean, look, if you've got a good man there and a good relationship and a good partnership, I mean, if that were me, I don't know if anyone would sort of come out. My mum would be, just let her stay for a little bit. No, I'm teasing, but it's the fact that you've got somebody who absolutely loves you and is sort of there waiting.
No, I agree completely.
And keeps the dream alive, which I'm, you know, that's a very
dedicated, isn't it? Very dedicated. I think he took his vows seriously, that bloke. Anyway, right, our London reporter Alice Porter, is joining us now outside the Iranian embassy in London. Alice, thank you very, very much. Please give us the latest.
Hi there. Well, of course, we've heard this wonderful news first thing this morning that the flight carrying Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe had arrived at RAF Brize Norton into the welcome arms of her husband, who has been tirelessly campaigning for so long, and, of course, her daughter, who she hadn't seen for over 2 years. And Richard Ratcliffe's family have been speaking this morning about the reunion. It's understood that Gabriella slept in her parents' bed between both of them last night, obviously overjoyed that the family are reunited together at last. Richard Ratcliffe's father was also very much sort of joking on the radio today that he'll have to give the house a bit of a clean-up before his wife returns home. And I think these little anecdotes, these sort of personal stories, really show that at the heart of this, there have been so many global tensions, global politics that have been taking place between Iran and between the UK, but really at the heart of it is just an ordinary family who simply want to be reunited.
No, indeed. And we understand that Murad Tabaz, as well, is a 66-year-old detainee. He's still in Iran. It's turning out we've got loads of people banged up in Iran, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been far more over there than I think so many people would have thought. Yeah, was arrested in 2018. He's a wildlife conservationist and was working out there and was arrested on espionage charges and actually was interestingly held in the same prison as Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. Now, it's understood that he has been released from prison on furlough, so a sort of temporary release, but he has not yet returned back to the UK. And I think what adds an extra degree of complication to his case is that he is a British citizen. He was born in Hammersmith, but he also has American citizenship as well. Now, in Iran, they don't recognise people with multiple nationalities, and that's been some of the issues here with Nazanin. They, as far as they're concerned, they're Iranian, and that's as far as it goes. So the extra dimension there of him having American citizenship as well adds an extra degree of complications. But we understand from the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, as well as American officials, that they're working hard to bring him back home with his family.
Thank you so much for keeping us up to date with that. Now, after the break, as COVID restrictions continue to be lifted across the country, millions of Brits will be finally celebrating St Patrick's Day today after 2 years of no celebrations because of COVID. That's all coming up after the headlines.
It's 10:33. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Well, as we've just been hearing, the British-Iranian charity worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has finally been reunited with her family in the UK. The emotional reunion came after the 43-year-old was released from detention in Iran, where she'd been held for 6 years. Fellow British-Iranian Anousheh Ashouri was also released after being detained in the country for nearly 5 years. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says it's fantastic to see them safely back in Britain.
It's been a really difficult 48 hours, the expectation that they would be released, but we weren't sure right until the last minute. So it's been very emotional, but also a really happy moment for the families. And I'm pleased to say that both Nazanin and Anousheh are in good spirits and they're safe and well back here in Britain.
Ukrainian authorities say survivors are emerging after a Russian airstrike hit a theatre sheltering hundreds of civilians. The mayor of Mariupol has said the bomb shelter in the building withstood the shelling, but the number of casualties remains unclear. President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of intentionally targeting the theatre. A satellite image before the strike appeared to show the word children written in Russian on the pavement. The details of the attack have not been independently verified. Moscow has denied its involvement in the shelling. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has described comments made by Joe Biden unforgivable after the US president labelled him a war criminal. The White House press secretary says the US leader was speaking from the heart, but Russia's Security Council says America is stoking what they call Russophobia. President Putin has called for a self-purification of Russia to rid his country of anyone who questions the invasion. Other news now on P&O Ferries, which sails major routes, including between Britain and France, has suspended all services ahead of an announcement later today. The company has apologised for disruption, as all vessels were asked to discharge their passengers and cargo and stand by for further instructions. A spokesman from the firm has denied it's going into liquidation. We'll bring you more on this as we get it. That's it for now. TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Back to the point in just a moment, so don't go anywhere.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Morning, everyone. It's 10:38. This is To The Point with me, Patrick, Christys and Nana Queer. We're here with you all the way through until midday. We're online, we're on your TV and on your radio as well.
Now, a spring booster drive delivering 4 jabs could be offered in England as soon as next week. It comes as COVID restrictions continue to be eased across the country, with travel restrictions for UK arrivals scrapped from tomorrow.
Yeah, but at the same time, COVID cases continue to be reported daily and have risen by half in the last week to around 70,000, apparently. That's positive tests a day, of course. So the question now is, with all these jabs on offer, should we actually care about the number of positive cases anymore?
Well, Alan Miller is the co-founder of the Together Declaration, an association of over 100,000 campaigners challenging the legit legacy of coronavirus restrictions and giving a voice to those in the public who are sick of COVID rules. He joins us now. Alan, thank you for joining us. Do you still care about the number of daily COVID cases?
I think we've had a real problem with looking at cases and with testing healthy people that for a long time has dominated the news cycle and does not represent sickness. And rather than having a calm, rational approach that actually protects vulnerable groups, instead it was generalised to everyone, and many people have been frightened consistently, and it's been very problematic. And just to say about the 4th jab, interim reports from the Jerusalem Post and others in Israel are saying that actually the fourth jab presents very, very little change to the third jab. And you kind of think at this point, I think what's going to be very, very important is the public inquiry. And we Together are going to be very insistent that we have a broad, deep, robust, open and transparent assessment of all of the impositions, of all of the restrictions, and also of the fear that was presented in the media in many areas. Fortunately, on GB News, you've taken a number of different views and interactions, but unfortunately, we've seen a very particular approach from many in the media that were almost always calling for more restrictions rather than actually reporting and investigating. So all round, that's problematic.
Yeah. And as I said, I just looked at the death figure yesterday, which is about 153 people who died of COVID, which isn't a great number, but that is across the country, right? That's a UK-wide figure. And there are many other conditions where more people die in a day of. So do you feel that perhaps, especially with this fourth jab, that actually Omicron seems to be almost a natural vaccine and there doesn't seem to be any point to this? And if that's the case, then why do you think they're bothering with this?
Well, obviously any deaths are very tragic and sad, but we have to contextualise this. If we're going to use stats all the time, then we need to look at all sorts of things. The 400 to 600 cancer deaths a day and a range of other stroke, heart disease, and context has been absent very often. Omicron is far less impactful in many ways, and many reports are now showing this, than actually the flu. So, a sober assessment and evaluation of this, and also even when something is really, really damaging and destructive at the height of it, we need to think about the best way to approach it calmly, rationally, openly and transparently. We've seen nudge, we've seen fear PR, and then we've seen all sorts of draconian restrictions having jettisoned a pandemic strategy. There's going to need to be very clear answers about this. We're going to need to address things like the Public Health Act that was used to impose lockdowns, emergency powers, attacks on free speech, impacts to jobs, family, mental health, the economy, and of course, freedom. And these are really big questions that moving forwards, we can't just be in a position where that's a go-to part of any policy repertoire where it can be repeated. Many said it was unprecedented. We want to make sure that many of these things absolutely don't happen in the same way ever again.
Thank you very much. Alan Miller there, of course, of the Together Declaration. Just whizzing you through the very latest when it comes to forced jabs. I must say, I've never quite experienced a vaccine quite like this. You have 4 of them and you can still get the thing and pass it on. But, obviously it does reduces death and serious hospitalisation, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah,
which is kind of the point.
It's not quite the sort of diamond standard vaccine when they say vaccine, but in a way, there's never been anything that has managed to counteract the coronavirus in the way this has. So we've got to take what we learnt from this, and it's not a bad thing. But 4 of them? I don't know.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, OK, just moving away from that. Now, one event benefiting from restrictions being lifted across the country is St Patrick's Day, my special day, which has been on hiatus for the last 2 years. The cancelling of St Patrick's Day in Ireland in 2020 really was a global sign that COVID was being taken very, very seriously, and the UK went into this first national lockdown just days later.
So now, 2 years on, how are people celebrating today? Well, who better to ask than our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie. Doogie, hello, good morning. So what's going on? What's happening there in Ireland? Tell us a bit about what's happening.
Well, first of all, happy St Patrick's Day to you and welcome to Downpatrick, and that we're Down Cathedral. This is apparently the burial site of the saint himself. Some say that he's buried round the back of the church, others say he's actually buried at this cross behind me. So yes, 2 years it has been since we've had any celebrations of any type on the island of Ireland, and of course St Patrick's is celebrated north and south. There'll probably be close to 500,000 people in Dublin today. And then there's these smaller celebrations in and around the rest of the island. Now, St Patrick's Day, like any other festival, brings in lots of tourism, lots of needed cash into the hospitality sector. I've been standing here this morning. There's been people from Cork, there's been people from Wales, Scotland, all here to attend this service behind me. At about 12:30 it'll be kicking off, and then that'll be the last of the Christian festivals before I suppose the Irish celebrate in the best way that they know how.
I know what you mean there. Will there be Guinness instead of wine at the church?
I would have thought so. Doogie, I want to know what you're doing for it. Are you allowed to tell us or not?
Depends what it is.
Well, St Patrick's Day used to be one day, and being the Irish, you know, it happens right in the middle of Lent, and it's always said it was no accident that actually happened. You know, it gives people an excuse to party during that time. Well, I'll be in Cork actually over the weekend. I'm down following up on a story on energy, so I'll be down there looking a few interviews. But yes, there probably will be a few jars because St Patrick's Day started last night at St Patrick's Eve party, and I'll probably go on to Monday or Tuesday in typical Irish fashion. So yeah, I'll probably have a few glasses of whiskey between now and then and really enjoy myself. The rest of the parades start here in around about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it kicks off quite a weekend. If you ever want to come to Ireland, this is the weekend to come to Ireland. I got to tell you, it is actually really good.
But do people get like a half day or a day off then? Do they get a day off on St Patrick's Day in Ireland, or a half day or something?
Yep.
Oh.
Well, this is a national holiday for most of us, a public holiday in Ireland, north and south, and as I say, it turns into a public weekend, and in typical Irish fashion, you really have, I mean, this is your day, Patrick. You should be here.
Yeah,
it's your day.
It's your name.
I promise you, it's just coffee in this mug, Doogie. I promise you that. Thank you very much, Doogie Beattie. There, of course. Well, I suppose standing very close to St Patrick himself, apparently.
Yeah,
I love that.
Not unless he was at the back.
Unless he's at the back. No, I love that, though. Thank you very much, Doogie. I like that. That's typical kind of Irish fashion. Some say St Patrick's buried around the back of the church. Some say he's buried around the front. We just can't.
I love it.
No one knows. Yeah.
Do you know, and I've only just put two and two together that you are also called Patrick. I mean, not that I didn't know your name, but obviously, when you, I didn't think about St Patrick. I should just keep my mouth shut and carry on.
At least you remember to wear green.
At least I wore green.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true. Right, OK, moving away from that. Now, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you might have missed, OK? So, punters looking to celebrate St Patrick's Day at Cheltenham today may find themselves slightly out of pocket as racegoers report that a pint of Guinness costs £7. It's a rip-off.
Well, it's a double measure of Irish whiskey isn't going to be cheap either. £12.20, and a Scottish fish and chip shop on Ayrshires west coast. Are they going to be celebrating St Patrick's Day as well? No, they're not, because they're in Scotland.
Well, I don't know, you see, St Patrick's Day is a very inclusive celebration. You can celebrate it any way you want. I mean, the Americans go mad for it, isn't it? It's amazing how many Americans have got distant Irish relatives, isn't it? And they all come out for St Patrick's Day. Like Joe Biden, he's Irish when he wants to be, isn't he? Anyway, right, OK, so a Scottish fish and chip shop on Ayrshire's west coast inspired scientists to conduct a study on seagulls, naturally, after the wee hurry chippy and True noticed that a disproportionate amount of seagulls were flocking to their shop every day.
Well, the researchers discovered that Troon seagulls do remember where they last dined on battered fish, and they'll travel from dozens of miles away to visit the wee hurry chippy specifically. Tracking the seagulls using GPS technology, they found that one colony in Walney in northwest England were routine visitors to Troon, as were some gulls from the Inner Hebrides around about 100 miles away.
I mean, to be fair, that is incredible. So seagulls remember their favourite fish and chip shop.
But you would do, wouldn't you? I mean, when I was at university and when I went to Sunderland, the seagulls would come down and take the food from your hand.
Yeah.
Or not in a gentle way. You're not offering; they just take it.
Yeah.
So they knew where to go then. So I mean, I'm not surprised.
They are a bit cheeky, aren't they, seagulls? They are. Like, to be honest with you, they're a bit of a menace.
They are a bit of a menace, actually. To be honest. I mean, and they're a bit scary if I'm quite serious about it. But. Yeah, fish and chips. What's your favourite fish and chippy, if you have one? Is there one?
I don't really care, as long as there's loads of salt and vinegar on it and gravy.
Not too much vinegar, lots of salt, bit of ketchup.
I don't get curry sauce. I don't get it. I know I'm going to cop it in the inbox for this now, but I'm a gravy man.
No, I'm a ketchup girl. I love my ketchup on absolutely everything.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it, actually. And to be honest with you, I am always guilty of over-ordering. I mean, look at me, but I am guilty of
That's over-ordering, not overeating, Patrick.
Yes, well, it's just a fundamental waste of money, actually. I'll go in, when you go in hungry somewhere and you're like, right, I'll have a lot of it. And then actually, you get about 5 bites in as you thought. Anyway, Chelsea Football Club may not have the money to fly their usual private plane to Middlesbrough for the next match and are staring down the barrel of a 10-hour round coach trip instead.
Oh dear, poor things. The club apparently has a 20,000 cap on travel costs for away matches after the UK government sanctioned owner Roman Abramovich. Chelsea's manager Thomas Tuchel is endeavouring to find some way to try to fly there. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. No. Absolutely. But I mean, it's it's obviously. I'm not going to shed a tear for the multi-millionaire Chelsea footballers.
No, I'm not really. I did a little monologue, and I know some people didn't like it, but I loved it really. And all it was really saying is that, quite frankly, that when I'm looking at Vladimir Putin and his behaviour and the fact that there's this massacre occurring in Ukraine, and there are a lot of people who've benefited from the wealth that Vladimir Putin has created. And I say we are slightly culpable because we were buying his oil. We didn't know he was going to behave like that, but obviously he has. And now he has behaved like that. Those around him need to be, either they need to properly distance themselves, and if they don't, then we need to accept that they may, they in some way they may sympathise, and it's just not acceptable for them to be in this country.
A lot of the Chelsea fans are out there singing his name. They've got banners with the Roman Empire written on it, and the Russian flag and everything. So a lot of Chelsea fans, I think, do just look at it and go, this guy's brought us tremendous success. And have we actually been told what it is that Roman Abramovich, obviously he's a crony, but...
It does fit, because it does... I know people will think, well, it can be a little bit unfair just because he's associated, but you see what happens with association. Look at Prince Andrew associated with, what is termed as a paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, you know what I mean? So there is almost... there is almost culpability with association, and if you're associating with someone like that, then if he's behaving in this manner and you've benefited in some way in terms of finance or money or anything like that, then it's no surprise that people may look at you differently.
No, I absolutely agree. Right, a medical student in India was caught trying to cheat in his final exam on Monday after a skin-coloured Bluetooth microchip was found surgically fixed to his ear.
Oh, my God.
I love this. Give him an A. Yeah. It was the student's final attempt to clear the exam after repeatedly failing it across his 11 years at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Medical College.
Oh, bless his heart. The student admitted under questioning that he had paid an ear, nose and throat surgeon to implant the device into his ear so that he could get exam answers from a connected phone.
I mean... Is it the worst thing in the world, though? I quite like it.
Well, it is, isn't it? It's quite clever, really, isn't it? It's all a bit... It's a bit worried that people can do that, though, because think how far that could stretch.
Did you ever cheat an exam?
No, I didn't. And I was a stickler for those. If they did cheat, I would absolutely dob on them.
Really?
Absolutely.
I didn't think you're a snitch.
No, it's not a snitch. Some people say, none of the grass. No, listen. No, I'm not being a snitch. But frankly, I'm competing against them and they're cheating. So if you're competing against me and you're cheating, then I'm afraid you ain't eating.
Well, I'm glad. All right.
I don't know what that means.
I'm glad I wasn't sat next to you. I'm glad I wasn't sat next to you in an exam. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Denmark is unveiling plans to ban the sale of cigarettes and other nicotine products to citizens born after 2010 in order to prevent the next generation of Danes from touching tobacco. New Zealand did a similar thing as well, didn't they, actually?
They said that they would gradually ban the sale of tobacco from 2025 by raising the age at which it can be purchased from 18 to 21. Well, that'll do it, wouldn't it? I mean, it just doesn't... I don't think prohibition has never been something that would work that well. When somebody says, you can't have that, what's the first thing you think? What is that?
Yeah, well, in a few years' time, in New Zealand, for example, in quite about 20 years' time, there's going to be, 45-year-old men and women who have to get a 47-year-old man or woman to go in and get the fags for them. Which is just ridiculous. It's like, oh, it's all right, sorry. It's like I'll be back at school, isn't it? Sorry, sir, do you mind just going in there and get me some fags, please? It's like, you're 52 years old, Gary, get them yourself.
Yeah, but you think, though, I mean, look, common sense would tell you that cigarettes are quite deadly for you and cause things like cancer, so it's down to you. If you've been told what it can do to you and you're still prepared to do it, then that is your choice, as long as you don't affect others around you. I think banning something like that, even though nowadays it would never be allowed, but it's too late now. The cat's out of the bag. So is alcohol. That's bad, but I quite like a drink every now and again.
Well, so do I. Right, we're going to go into the terrifying world of my inbox for GB Views. We've not actually done many GB Views yet, so there we go. Strap yourselves in. Right, lots of people getting in touch about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. Just saying that you're very glad that she's come home, obviously. And yes, some reaction to my monologue earlier as well. Obviously, I was mentioning basically, I think unless we get a bit of a grip and start focusing on what matters, like national security and money, I'm concerned that we're going to get left behind. This is from Tim. I've just retired after careers both as a Royal Navy engineering officer and a radio electronics installation person. And he's basically saying that the grab for short-term profits and misjudged concepts are holding us back. He thinks that we need to sharpen up our ways.
Yeah, he is right as well. I mean, that does seem to be the way there is this short-termism that we only consider, oh, well, just for tomorrow, instead of thinking long-term, which clearly, if you look at the people like Vladimir Putin, he was definitely thinking long-term. I mean, he was planning this invasion since 2014, and great monologue, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It was very good, yeah, I agreed with you.
Hey, there we go. It's a good day.
Yeah.
Right, OK, stay tuned, everybody, because we've got another hour coming your way very, very shortly. Keep all your thoughts coming into us on email, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll be back with more of today's top stories and, of course, plenty of your views after this break.
Hello again. Spring sunshine to come for all of us over the next few days. Today, not everywhere seeing sunny skies, but we do have plenty of it, certainly across the south. And in that sunshine, it feels quite mild. Further north, we do have some showers around, low pressure and some weather fronts. But in the south, this high pressure is building in, bringing, as I say, a sunny day, certainly across much of southern England and eastern England too. Further north, we're having more clouds and some showers over northern England, North Wales, maybe one or two drifting into southeast Wales and the Midlands. Certainly plenty of showers coming into Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly of rain, but some snow over the hills across the Highlands. Not too many showers this afternoon for Northern Ireland, mostly dry and bright here. And temperatures here in Belfast, Glasgow, up to 10 or 11, but further south, 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees Celsius in that sunshine. Through the evening and overnight, we'll see those showers fading over northern England. We'll keep some going over the extreme northwest of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night and a clear night largely. But certainly across the Midlands, parts of Wales, southern England, some mist and fog patches are likely to form. Further north, it's likely to stay clear, and we are going to see a frost. A cold start wherever you are then to Friday, and there will be some perhaps quite dense patches of fog through the morning rush hour. Could take a couple of hours before that clears away completely, but it should eventually go. Certainly by late morning, it's looking largely dry and sunny. Sunshine fairly hazy at times over northern Scotland, but for most places, it's a cracking day if you like spring sunshine. Temperatures getting widely into the teens, 16, 17 Celsius is possible. Cooler with a brisk breeze across the Northern Isles and the Western Isles. That brisk breeze lingers through Friday evening and into the weekend as well. We'll also see the wind picking up along the south coast of England. So that'll be a feature of the weather through Saturday, but look at that. Sunny skies almost across the board. By Sunday, just the threat of a few showers coming up across the south.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, morning everyone. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys and Nana Akua. We're on your TV, radio and online. We're with you all the way through until midday with a massive show full of all the biggest stories and, of course, lots of your views and a few of ours as well.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure you get in touch with your views as usual. It's gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll be getting to those throughout the show. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Ukrainian authorities say survivors are emerging after a Russian airstrike hit a theatre sheltering hundreds of civilians. The mayor of Mariupol has said the bomb shelter in the building withstood the shelling, but the number of casualties remains unclear. President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of intentionally targeting the theatre. A satellite image before the strike appeared to show the word children written in Russian on the pavement. Moscow has denied its involvement in the shelling. Meanwhile, President Zelensky said peace talks are still ongoing with the Kremlin.
My priorities during the negotiations are absolutely clear. The end of the war, guarantees of security, sovereignty, restoration of territorial integrity, real guarantees for our country, real protection for our country.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has described comments made by Joe Biden as unforgivable after the US president called him a war criminal. The White House press secretary says President Biden was speaking from the heart as Moscow's attacks on civilians continued overnight. But Russia's Security Council says the US is stoking what they call Russophobia. President Putin has called for a self-purification to rid his country of anyone who questions the invasion. Former US government advisor Professor Colleen Graffi told GB News the Russian leader must be held accountable.
Really, it's up to the international community to ensure that Putin, and it is Putin, it's clearly not Russia, as we're seeing from the protests of Russian people throughout the world. It is Putin's war, and he will be held accountable for it. And the fact that Biden called him a war criminal, I think, is completely appropriate.
The Ministry of Defence says the Russian invasion of Ukraine has largely stalled on all fronts. The latest intelligence update shows Russian forces have made minimal progress on land, sea and air and continue to suffer heavy losses. It adds the vast majority of Ukrainian territory, including all major cities, remains in Ukrainian hands. P&O Ferries, which sails major routes, including between Britain and France, has suspended all services ahead of an announcement later today. The company has apologised for disruption as all vessels were asked to discharge their passengers and cargo and stand by for further instructions. A spokesperson has denied it's going into liquidation. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says officials will be having urgent discussions with the firm. The British-Iranian charity worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has finally been reunited with her family in the UK. The emotional reunion came after the 43-year-old was released from detention in Iran, where she'd been held for 6 years. Fellow British-Iranian Anousheh Ashuri was also released after being detained in Iran for nearly 5 years. Their plane touched down in the early hours of this morning at RAF Brize Norton. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says it's fantastic to see them safely back in Britain.
It's been a really difficult 48 hours. The expectation that they would be released, but we weren't sure right until the last minute. So it's been very emotional, but also a really happy moment for the families. And I'm pleased to say that both Nazanin and Anousheh are in good spirits and they're safe and well back here in Britain.
Government proposals for new internet safety laws are being introduced to Parliament today after a number of major updates. The online safety bill has been 5 years in the making. The legislation will force social media platforms to prevent users from seeing harmful content. Regulators will also have the power to fine companies or block access to sites that fail to comply. Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell told GB News she thinks this will make a difference, but there's still a long way to go.
Of the real concerns that I and others who are scrutinising and looking at these issues have is this sort of David and Goliath, where we've got a small British kind of regulator trying its very best to regulate the policies and the impact of some of these giant social media companies. So that's why we've been calling for a long time for tougher sanctions.
Lucy Powell speaking there. Well, this is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens, of course. Now, though, let's return to the point.
Good morning. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Nana Akwe and Patrick Christys, on TV, online and on digital radio. And we've got a great show lined up for you for our final hour. So here's what's on the menu.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the United States Congress yesterday. We'll be talking to an American journalist to see how he was received and what the public across the pond think about the Russian invasion.
And Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, some good news. She's finally back home in the UK after being held in Iran for nearly 6 years. So what does her release mean for Britain's position in the Middle East? An expert joins us for more details.
We're wishing viewers across the United Kingdom a very happy St Patrick's Day as well. Yes, it is indeed my special day. We're off to Northern Ireland with our reporter Dougie Beattie to see how the festivities, easy for me to say, are shaping up.
And of course we have all of that coming up throughout the programme, and you can always get in touch with us with your views on the usual GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Right, well, British-Iranian aid worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and dual national Anousheh Ashouri have landed in the United Kingdom after being freed from Iran. Our political editor Darren McCaffrey tells us more.
Back on British soil. After 6 long years in an Iranian prison, it took just 6 short hours for Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe to arrive home last night. Welcomed by her delighted and grateful husband Richard and 7-year-old daughter Gabriella.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably a couple of days peace and quiet somewhere else, and then back here, the first thing she always wanted to do was to me make a cup of tea, so which we will do. I think actually we were looking at the house, so it needs a bit of tidying as well, so there might be a bit of tidying, perhaps directed by Mummy when she comes back.
The deal to get Nazanin back followed prolonged negotiations between the Foreign Office and the Iranian regime. But in the end, it saw Britain settle a $400 million 40-year debt for tanks that we sold but never delivered.
I pushed officials to be as creative as possible in finding a way to resolve this situation, and they have worked round the clock to find a viable payment route. We have considered and exhausted many options in the process, but I can tell the House we have found a way to make the payment in full, in compliance with UK and international sanctions and global counter-terrorism financing and anti-money laundering regulations. A sum of £393.8 million has now been paid, which will only be available for humanitarian purposes.
This is only part of the story, though. Iran has a new government, relations have improved. And the wider politics of Russian sanctions has meant Britain is having to look to the Middle East for her energy security. It's no coincidence that Boris Johnson is in the region this week. Iran, Qatar and Saudi Arabia may well be needed. But for Nazanin, this isn't about the wider politics, but the end of an awful nightmare.
At the heart of this story is a real human tragedy, an innocent family separated now for years. And as you say, an incredibly brave family. Richard has been on hunger strike twice. Nazanin's been on hunger strike. Nazanin and Richard are 2 of the very bravest people I know.
After 6 years, that nightmare is now over, and a family have been reunited. Darren McCaffrey, GB News.
Yeah.
That's lovely, isn't it? What a nice story. I'm so
Absolutely.
glad she's been reunited, because you couldn't even imagine if that was to happen to your partner, that they'd be separated for that kind of period of time, whether you have the strength and conviction in your relationship to even stay together, and then all the courage that they've both shown. It's just, it's kind of, in a way, it's a bit of a love story, isn't it?
Well, it's very much a love story, very much a love story. I mean, I do wonder how quickly he decided to clean his house before she got back. You know, I think if my partner had gone away for 6 years, there wouldn't be a flat left to come back to. But anyway, right, so a lot of you getting in touch, GBViews, gbnews.uk. Lots of you apparently really care about seagulls. So we were doing a story before about some research. Some research has been conducted into seagulls, and it turns out that they have favourite fish and chip shops. Yeah, no, you heard. And people are basically saying, like John, for example, there's very much a theme in the GB News inbox at the moment. Keep up the good reporting. Won't get that far, John. Seagulls need a cull. They're nothing but flying rats. The first one to steal my fish and chips will get strangled.
Well, you've got to catch it first, haven't you?
All right, John.
Hope you can fly, John.
Yeah, but the flying rats thing is a common theme in my yeah.
Well, that's what they call pigeons, don't they? Really?
Yes.
I mean, I know, but they're sort of giant ones, aren't they? I sort of feel that they are a little bit rat-like, and you know, they do leave a bit of a stench and a mess wherever they go, and you know, they steal your food as well. I mean, there's not much to love about them, but they are animals, and so therefore they have my respect. We can't eat them, can we?
Well, apparently they just taste awful. Yeah, that's what I've heard, yeah. Anyway,
imagine.
Word on the street. Good morning. Herring gulls, not seagulls, are far more intelligent than the hordes of people who consume fish and chips at seaside resorts. That's from Dave, giving a damning indictment to the British public. Thank you very much, Dave. So, yes, OK, well, that's some stuff about seagulls there. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot else going about. In all the news as well about price rises and war, pensioners seem to have been forgotten. It's a good point, this, Ron. Pensioners' baskets are skewed towards food and energy, which means this year they could experience a 10% increase, if not more. It could create hardship for many pensioners. I don't think we look after the elderly enough in this country now.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough respect for them at all. I mean, if you go to somewhere like Africa, the elderly are kind of revered as wise and, you know, people who could give you wisdom and things. But here, this is more of a sort of, well, as an old person, they're going to be sort of dead soon. We're not going to worry about how they live and things like that. We don't have the same... for example, the multi-generation households that you have with African and Indian families, and they all try and live together. But here we've got this weird notion that just send them off to a care home, get them to sell their house, and then there's no inheritance for you, but on the good side, they're out of the way, sort of thing.
Yeah, almost like a burden as opposed to something to be cherished, I think. But Steve's been in touch. He just says, I'm all for booster jabs. We were just talking before, weren't we, about booster jabs and whether or not you're going to get a fourth one, etc. He says, I'm all for boosters. But I'm getting really fed up of people moaning about how many vaccines we're having and questioning why we need them. And even still whining about lockdowns. Let me point out that there were 88,000 total deaths recorded, apparently, and normally there's only about 44,000 in April. So obviously that's Steve's view, isn't it, really? He's saying, you know, shut up and get your jab.
Well, listen, keep those thoughts coming. GBviews at gbnews.uk, or why not tweet us at GBnews. But as we were talking earlier, and one of our other British Iranian nationals released was Anousheh Ashouri, who flew with Nazanin on the flight back. I mean, we don't really hear much about him. I mean, I didn't even know that there were quite a few others detained there as well. We're now joined with this MP for Lewisham East, Janet Derby. Janet, thank you so much for joining us. So this is the thing here. We don't often hear about any others who are sort of there in Iran. And what is your view on the situation? And what are the main things as to why now and how it's changed?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me onto the show. And Anousheh Ashouri is 67 years old. He was an engineer, and he was arrested and detained, similar to Nazanin, approximately 5 years ago. The family have been campaigning for the last 3 years, quite ferociously, really, and have been doing an excellent job. And they did join their campaign with Richard in the last 18 months, let's say. So he's obviously gone through an awful situation and ordeal, and he's really, delighted to be reunited with his family. So today is really excellent news. It's excellent for the family, and it's excellent that they've all been able to come back together. But that does not take away from the 5 years of those days where he's been in prison. He can't get those days back. And obviously, only he will know those experiences that did take place while he was in prison. And we know that when you're held on trumped-up charges as being a spy, then you're most likely to be tortured in all sorts of ways. And my heart goes out to him and Nazanin for having been incarcerated from their families for that period of time. The government eventually got round to returning the money that was owed to Iran of just under £400 million, and they have agreed to that to go to Iran for humanitarian goods, which is something I've always been campaigning for and advocating for. So I'm really pleased and delighted that is happening, but it is 5 years too late for Anousheh and 6 years too late for Nazanin. This could have been done much sooner.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously it must be a tremendous day. So it's unimaginable, really, how these families must be feeling, and the sense of relief and joy, of course, as these people are released. Look, so some people would say, you know, maybe this would encourage more hostage-taking or more people being imprisoned abroad as a result of now knowing that, I suppose, we would pay for their release. How do you feel about that?
Well, you have to be really clear, all right? This is money that was Iranian money. In the 1970s, they had paid for some tanks, and those had never been delivered. So actually, if anybody's in the wrong here, the British government have been in the wrong by not returning that money back to Iran. Now, there were various sanctions in place. There were things that prevented that, sanctions from us and other sanctions. But there was a deal and deals that could have been reached a lot earlier. So this isn't about having hostages and the UK paying for those hostages to be released. This is about corruption from Iran, obviously, for holding British people that they should never have held, and that is absolutely despicable. But at the end of the day, this is Iranian money that has been returned to them, that the government has held on to for far too long. And it's rightly so that this money should be returned to Iran, but it was always wrong that they had taken and kept British people as hostages. And I'm pleased that they've all been, well, 2 of them have been returned back, and that they're being reunited with their family. And for them, they're happy to be on British soil, to be back with their families, to be united, and they're overjoyed. And I'm absolutely delighted for them.
Well, listen, Janet, thank you so much for talking to us. That's Janet Davey there in Lewisham. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, absolutely massive relief, of course, for all of the families of those 2 people who've been released. But, of course, there are also still people locked up in Iran. But anyway, our London reporter, Alice Porter, is outside the Iranian embassy right now. Thank you very much. Alice, what's the latest there, please?
Hi there. Well, it's interesting you were saying that just there about British nationals who are still in Iran, because, of course, we've seen these absolutely jubilant pictures of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe reunited with her husband and her daughter. But sadly, there are still foreign nationals that are in Iran at the moment. Morad Tabaz, he is a British, American and Iranian man who is currently in Iran at the moment. Now, he was released from prison yesterday on a temporary release, a furlough, and he's been reunited with his family. Now, Liz Truss has said, the Foreign Secretary, that they are working hard to bring him back to the UK. But of course, it's made more difficult by the fact that he has a number of different nationalities. He's American, British and Iranian. Now, in Iran, they do not recognise people with dual citizenship, with multiple nationalities, and particularly having the American nationality adds an extra dimension to the problem from the Iranian point of view. So that's been a sort of their challenge, but we understand the Foreign Secretary is working hard to bring him back to the UK.
Alice, thank you very, very much. Always great to have an update from you there. Alice Porter, our London reporter from the Iranian embassy. Right, now, up next, American radio host Steve Cochran joins us to analyse the US response to the Ukraine conflict after President Joe Biden called Vladimir Putin a war criminal. Is going to make tensions much, much worse. All that after 11.
Hello again. Spring sunshine to come for all of us over the next few days. Today, not everywhere seeing sunny skies, but we do have plenty of it, certainly across the south. And in that sunshine, it feels quite mild. Further north, we do have some showers around, low pressure and some weather fronts. But in the south, this high pressure is building in, bringing, as I say, a sunny day, certainly across much of southern England and to eastern England too. Further north, we're having more clouds and some showers over northern England, North Wales, maybe 1 or 2 drifting into southeast Wales and the Midlands. Certainly plenty of showers coming into Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly of rain, but some snow over the hills across the Highlands. Not too many showers this afternoon for Northern Ireland. Mostly dry and bright here. And temperatures here in Belfast, Glasgow, up to 10 or 11. But further south, 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees Celsius in that sunshine. Through the evening and overnight, we'll see those showers fading over northern England. We'll keep some going over the extreme northwest of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night and a clear night largely. But certainly across the Midlands, parts of Wales, southern England, some mist and fog patches are likely to form. Further north, it's likely to stay clear, and we are going to see a frost. A cold start wherever you are then to Friday, and there will be some perhaps quite dense patches of fog through the morning rush hour. Could take a couple of hours before that clears away completely, but it should eventually go. Certainly by late morning it's looking largely dry and sunny. Sunshine fairly hazy at times over northern Scotland, but for most places it's a cracking day if you like spring sunshine. Temperatures getting widely into the teens, 16, 17 Celsius is possible. Cooler with a brisk breeze across the Northern Isles and the Western Isles. That brisk breeze lingers through Friday evening and into the weekend as well. We'll also see the wind picking up along the south coast of England. So that'll be a feature of the weather through Saturday, but look at that. Sunny skies almost across the board. By Sunday, just the threat of a few showers coming up across the south.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis, and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that has been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here. Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Join me, Gloria De Piero, Monday to Thursday at noon for The Briefing. We go to the parts of Parliament that you won't see elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question. Don't miss it, Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. It's 11:23. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, and Nana Akua on GB News. We're live on your TV, radio and online this morning.
Now, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace has said that the UK will send 100 extra troops to Poland, as well as the Sky Sabre missile system to bolster defences in the country. Now, this follows UK intelligence reports that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has largely stalled on all fronts as the conflict enters its fourth week.
Yeah, well, meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has called Russian President Vladimir Putin a, quote, war criminal for the hundreds of civilians' deaths in the conflict as Russia bombed a theatre in Mariupol where between 1,000 and 1,200 people were sheltering overnight. Well, Yesterday, of course, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the US Congress, receiving a standing ovation from representatives and senators alike.
Now, Steve Cochran is an American radio broadcaster and host of the podcast Live from My Office. He joins us now to talk to us through about how the American response is to Ukraine. So, Steve, what are the Americans, what's the general gist and the sort of views of the American population, and in particular, their view on how Joe Biden is handling this particular conflict?
It's become more positive. His actual approval numbers have gone up in regards to handling this. His overall approval numbers, mostly flat. But it's sort of like the 5 stages of grief. It's gone from concern to disgust to fear to anger. And now there's actually some bipartisan support. But remember, this is a big American election year. And the people in Congress will do pretty much anything to get reelected. It's just interesting to see Democrats talking to Republicans. It's like dogs loving cats. It's odd here.
Really? Because in the UK, I mean, to be honest with you, in the UK, we're sort of looking at him and thinking that he comes across as though he's not really with it and doesn't kind of know what's going on. I mean, he called the Ukrainians Iranians and things like that. So from our side of it, we're thinking that Trump probably would have handled it better. Is there any gist in there that they feel that Trump might have done a better job?
The far right certainly believes that, but I think you can go all the way back to George Bush and point out American presidents who just flat blew it. Bush didn't take an opportunity to go after Georgia. Obama's red line with Syria was a joke. Obama had a chance to deal with Crimea and did not. Trump slow-walked sanctions, wanted to blow up NATO. It's been blown for almost 20 years, which has allowed Putin to run with this. So is he a war criminal? I think absolutely. Is Biden the right guy to do it? Biden's the guy that has the job, so he has to be the right guy. And he's got a pretty solid team around him. But again, the weird feeling here is Americans rallying together. We haven't seen it in a while. It's a little uncomfortable.
OK. I mean, Joe Biden, do you think he actually really is the one running the country? Like Nana's just said there, he doesn't always appear to be quite with it. You mentioned he's got a good team around him. I mean, actually, he needs one, doesn't he?
Well, it depends on perspective, right? I mean, the man is almost 80 years old. He's lived a very difficult life. He's taken a lot of personal struggles and certainly does not present himself as the most alert human being on the planet at times. But again, he has the job. He's the one that is constitutionally tasked with making these decisions. And my hope is that he's listening to everyone around him to make proper decisions. He certainly has a lot of foreign experience, foreign policy experience. He's the guy. He's the guy with the job. He's the guy that's going to have to make the tough calls. Again, I think the interesting thing here is Americans are starting to rally around the central idea that Putin is the problem and that we, all the Western nations, leading with the UK and us, we need to take a step up.
No, well, it's interesting that you say that. I think, and I hope the world does see this for what it is, because I know that the propaganda that has been spewed out there to the Russian people, they don't seem to be getting the right messages, or the messages are different, or I'm not sure what they believe it. But what's America doing with regard to refugees? I know the UK have dropped visa requirements and things like that, but we don't hear much about the American response. So how's that going?
Yeah, there's a thing here called humanitarian parole, which is a terrible name. But the idea being that if Ukrainians have family members living in the United States, that they would be fast-tracked in. It's certainly not going to be the first resort, but the people of Poland have been amazing. Poland appears to be full, no more vacancies. So everyone else has to pick up, and the United States certainly can do more, should do more. And I think we'll do more because we have to do more as this crisis continues.
Indeed. Steve, thank you very, very much. I must say it was an absolute pleasure.
And happy Patrick's Day.
Yeah, yes, it's my special day. Thank you.
Love your podcast.
What's the crack like in Chicago this evening? Is it going to be a massive party?
Yeah, we dye the river green here. I just got back from that. I did it myself. Just 1 spoon of green food coloring, if you will. It's quite a work. But yeah, we're back. All I have right now is this hat, which I'll be happy to send you. But happy Patrick's Day, happy St. Patrick's Day, and you both look lovely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much.
We'll have to have you back on very soon.
For sure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Steve Cochran live from his office. There you go.
I know, isn't it great?
Very on brand. Anyway, right.
Podcast as well, that is.
Yeah. Actually, make sure you do check him out. Anyway, emotional scenes this morning at RAF Brize Norton. As British Iranian nationals Nazanin I can never say this name.
Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe.
Sorry, Nazanin.
And Anousheh Ashori.
There you go, yes, I'll palm that one off to you. Touched down on British soil following their detention in Iran. Now, amid an energy crisis, an oil insecurity, and of course, confirmation of an exchange of £400 million to Iran, what is our relationship like with the region? Now, Sam Armstrong has been sitting here, bless him, for the last 15 minutes. We've finally decided to go to him now. Sam Armstrong, thank you very, very much, Director of Communications for Foreign and Security Policy at the think tank, the Henry Jackson Society. So, have we caved into Iran? It's not quite as simple as that, is it?
Yeah, well, obviously there is this £400 million that we've handed over, and we've got to be concerned about it. I've heard some of your other guests saying that they've guaranteed it's going to be for humanitarian purposes, but Iran themselves are saying, actually, no, hang on, we've given no guarantees, we'll use that in accordance with our principles. And we know that their principles often involve blowing up other people and developing nuclear weapons. So come on, hold your horses. We've got to be worried here because £400 million can buy an awful lot of things.
But hang on, if we owed it to them, so this is like this is sort of the inflation that we owed them. I think we owed them the money. Technically, that as it should be, and if that's the reasoning as to why they're holding the hostages, who clearly have nothing to do with the things that they're being held for, then is that not okay? Shortly.
Well, we owed the Shah of Iran money. The lot that run it now murdered him and his entire family. So for them to say, because we owed him some money, we owe them some money, is a little bit rum, if you ask me. My view was that we should provide them with the tanks. These tanks are now so old that the British Army used them for target practice on Salisbury Plains.
But that's in a way. Look, I don't know why the negotiation should have been through this way. But if that was the reasoning that you owed them something, even if you owed the guy before and he's not dead, he's dead, but so on and so forth, you still owe the money. It doesn't necessarily go. So surely the fact that person they've been paid and the people have been released, it can look like a bit of a hostage for money, but it's not quite. There's another element to it.
Well, we've paid a load of money, and strangely, these hostages have been released. That looks like a hostage ransom to me, and I think it does to most other people.
Well, it is, but there's a reasoning behind it. It's not just the money being handed over. They've created a narrative, so it doesn't look that way.
Well, I agree with you, and my concern is not that Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe is now back at home with her family. Thank goodness for that. I'm delighted to see that. My concern is that Iran is a national sponsor of terrorism. We know it. We know that they have been going around the Middle East murdering Brits, Americans, anyone they can get their hands on, not least what they do to their own people as well. And £400 million, that is going to buy an awful lot of capacity to kill, maim, ruin other lives. And you've got to be concerned about who you're handing money over to.
They've been doing that all along, as you've been saying, so I don't think it will make much difference.
Well, why now, sir? Why right now? Has it got any link whatsoever to what's been going on in Ukraine with Russia?
I don't think it's got much to do with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I think it's got quite a lot to do with the fact that our negotiators are back in Vienna trying to resume another Iran deal that would release sanctions from them, give them another further injection of cash to be able to do stuff. And at the moment, there are talks that the UK has dropped any ask that that Iran stop sponsoring terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. It sounds like we've dropped or reduced our nuclear ask and commitment from them there. And it seems like perhaps the UK government is so worried about what's going on in Ukraine, it's prepared to make extraordinary concessions to the Iranian regime in pursuit of getting it off the table, moving on to other things.
But my only worry with all of this, and obviously you don't want to be doing deals with people who are potential despots and dictators, as we've seen what's happened with Vladimir Putin. But my concern is this, that we can't judge every single, because otherwise, where will we be? Could you imagine if those countries judged us, they would say, well, didn't you start off a slave trade or whatever? Weren't you involved in this? Didn't you? And we sort of start to try and judge as to who we're making these negotiations with. I think it's obviously very important that you do a level of it, but we can't, otherwise we'll trade with absolutely no one on any level. Everybody has, or each country has got something that we're not happy with.
Yeah, I get that to an extent, right? Every country's got parts in their history. And in the UK's case, they really are historic.
Exactly.
No one alive round has done it. But, you know, there is a spectrum, right? And you've got absolutely. Kim Jong-un and North Korea right at the bottom, and then China and Russia and Iran moving up the ladder. And there's probably a point, I think, when you're prepared to deal with anyone where you draw the line. And my view is you draw the line slightly above the regime that's kidnapping British citizens and murdering people right across the Middle East.
But I think you have to have the dialogue. Otherwise nothing will ever change. But it's
Thank
good
you very
to talk
much.
to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in and sitting here for ages as well, actually.
Thank you.
The Henry Jackson Society, of course. He is the communications for foreign and security policy. Great to have your insight. Thank you very much for that. Right, now, after the break, we finally get to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with no restrictions. Woo. Hey.
Yes.
We'll have a look at what preparations are looking like. But before that, let's have a look at this morning's news.
Good morning, it's 11:35. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Ukrainian authorities say survivors are emerging after a Russian airstrike hit a theatre sheltering hundreds of civilians. The mayor of Mariupol has said the bomb shelter in the building withstood the shelling, but the number of casualties remains unclear. President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of intentionally targeting the theatre. A satellite image before the strike appeared to show the word children written in Russian on the pavement. The details of the attack have not been independently verified. Moscow has denied its involvement in the shelling. Meanwhile, the Kremlin says it will not take heed of the International Court of Justice demand that Russia halt its aggression. Moscow says talks with Ukraine are continuing today via video link. It says NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg urged President Vladimir Putin to pull back his forces to avoid more bloodshed.
NATO has a responsibility to prevent this conflict from escalating further. That would be even more dangerous and would cause more suffering, death and destruction.
P&O Ferries, which sails major routes including between Britain and France, has suspended all services ahead of an announcement later today. The company have apologised for disruption as all vessels were asked to discharge their passengers and cargo and stand by for further instructions. A spokesperson for the firm has denied it's going into liquidation. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says officials will be having urgent discussions with the firm. The British-Iranian charity worker Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has finally been reunited with her family in the UK. The emotional reunion came after the 43-year-old was released from detention in Iran, where she'd been held for 6 years. Fellow British-Iranian Anousheh Ashuri was also released after being detained in the country for nearly 5 years. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has said it's fantastic to see them safely back in Britain. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Back to the point in just a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Patrick Christys here, joined by Nana Akua. It is 11:39. We are, of course, live on GB News on your TV, radio and online this morning.
So we continue with the news because a group of women protesting male violence were attacked in Manchester last night after being reportedly subject to intimidation and harassment. And some of the women had milkshakes thrown at them as they protested for International Women's Day.
Goodness me. Well, joining us now is someone who can shed a bit more light on exactly what happened. One of the women who was at the march and a friend of the show is Gemma Aitchison, of course. Gemma, thank you very much. And you're the founder, of course, of Yes Matters UK, an organisation that aims to tackle the causes of sexual violence and support victims. Gemma, thanks for joining us. Just talk us through what happened.
So traditionally, after International Women's Day, the weekend closest to it, there's usually a march in Manchester. Manchester being, you know, famous for its suffragettes. And Yes Matters was invited because they wanted to collect for our services that we give to children who are sexually abused, because we are a volunteer organisation. So we were invited and we said thank you, and we went along. There were different groups there. There were women with their daughters, you know, little girls were there too. And we did the chants and stuff that have been used in the Reclaim the Streets marches for decades. But it became apparent that there were a group of, I've since found out, trans activists. They threw milkshakes at us, including myself. And this was without any provocation. We hadn't had any discussion. None of the chants were mentioning anything about trans people. And then a fight broke out between a trans woman and a woman. And I tried to put myself in between them to stop this, and ended up getting punched myself and kicked myself and thrown to the ground, which, to be honest, I don't really understand how following and targeting a group of women chanting about women's safety and then targeting them is really the right way to go about saying, share your spaces with us, it's safe. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest.
Celebrating International Women's Day, and you're saying that the people that attacked you were trans activists and a trans woman who sort of attacked you because you were promoting women. Is that right?
Well, according to the perpetrators' Twitter and their friends' Twitter, which they're celebrating what they've done, according to them, because this was an International Women's Day march, apparently it was promoting hate towards trans people. And I don't really understand that. If we had any conversation, or if there had been any, you know, chants about trans people, maybe I could understand, but that wasn't the case. I tried to speak to them. I tried to ask, you know, why have you thrown this milkshake on me? You've destroyed some of our merchandise we brought, and you know, I don't really understand why you've done this. But it was just, yeah, they didn't want to speak. And then the fight broke out. And I just tried to behave as decently as I could, and I was concerned that there were obviously little girls around and members of the public, you know, men and women who had joined in our chants and donated to Yes Matters and stuff like that as we went along. You know, men and women, everyone was supporting when we were walking past. So I don't really understand their justification, other than they had decided that we thought differently the way they did and decided that it was okay for them to punish us for it, I suppose. I'm not sure.
But these were men.
They were men, wouldn't they? They'd be trans women.
Is that right?
So
So they were born men and they transitioned into womanhood, is that right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Yeah,
the other way
so
around, is what I'm getting at.
biological-
So look, from where I'm sitting, I'm not trying to drag you into a any murky territory. I'm just going to say what my view on it is that you've been attacked by a group of men.
Ugh, it's a fly.
Well, it seems that I have been quite literally dragged into it, really, and I don't think that behaving like that is you can then at the same time tell women that they're being silly for being worried about sharing spaces. Well, being violent isn't the way to progress that. I don't understand the logic. And like I say, they're celebrating it online now. I had to go to the police with myself and another woman to give a statement, including a victim impact statement, which I haven't had to do since my sister's death, which was really difficult. Sorry. And to see them celebrating online, I just don't understand.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, I hope you're okay, Gemma. It does seem ridiculous, but what you're doing is really important because you're protecting the rights of women to be women and to be perceived as women, and for people to understand that it is very throwaway to just go, oh, well, we'll just, as Keir Starmer was talking about things to do with sort of changing the parameters of what is a woman and what can be defined as a woman. It is important for us women to stand up for what we believe in. Gemma, thank you so much for talking to us. I hope you're okay, but there's a lot of people behind you who would support you. I'm one of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Of course, founder of Yes Matters there. Well, look, let's just move away from that. Really shocking stuff that was, wasn't it? I mean, goodness me. One event that is benefiting from restrictions being lifted now across the country is, of course, St Patrick's Day, which has been on hiatus for the last 2 years. So the cancelling of St Patrick's Day in Ireland in 2020 really was a global sign that COVID was being taken seriously. Of course, the UK went into its first national lockdown just a few days later. So now, 2 years on, how are people celebrating today? That's what I want to know. Well, joining us now are Neve and Tina Phillips from the Wheatsheaf pub in Stoke Newington, which is a family-run Irish pub and has been in the family for 40 years. Thank you very much for being with us. What's on the agenda tonight? Just loads of Guinness?
So we've got live music on from 7:30 and we'll be serving food all day. We've got traditional Irish stew that my mum here's been slaving away making. It's a good time. We're super excited to be open and have a good old party.
Well, we love a bit of a good old party. And presumably there's going to be a lot of green. I mean, I'm wearing my green today as well. Is there going to be an entry requirement that people have to wear a green accessory?
Well, if you can see, we've got on our shamrocks. Some shamrocks, so we'll be giving out shamrocks. So anyone that doesn't come in their green, they'll have some shamrock from the Emerald Isle.
Fantastic. I love it a lot. And so obviously, the last couple of years, I imagine it was pretty quiet on Paddy's Day, wasn't it? But you're going to make up for lost time today.
Oh, indeed we are. Yeah, it was a tough old 2 years. Not celebrating St Patrick's Day is kind of insane for us, I think. So yeah, we're making up for lost time, that's for sure.
How did you guys cope, though? I mean, presumably did you have to shut shop during the pandemic, or were you in a position to continue? Because I know some people carried on trading because they met the requirements.
Yeah, but we have no beer garden, unfortunately. So yeah, any pub without a beer garden had to stay shut. It was very worrying at that time, but we made through it, and here we are, ready to go on today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's the Wheatsheaf, of course, and I think, I would urge everyone to get down there. It sounds like it's going to be an absolute stellar evening, really. You've got stew, you've got the Guinness, I imagine there'll be a bit of whiskey going about as well. But what's your favourite bit about St Patrick's Day for you then? What does it mean to you?
I think, just a celebration of, in Ireland, we've got such a great community and, I myself was born and raised in Hackney, but of course, feel very Irish and I think just getting together and celebrating, our traditions, and, we love music and the Guinness, of course.
And St. Patrick's Day is a religious day in Ireland. So, we all go to Mass St. Patrick's morning. So that's
well, look, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Yes. Good luck tonight. Enjoy it. Try to remember some of it as well. I'm sure I won't, but there you go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Tina there in the witchy. Thank you so much. Have a lovely, lovely day. Go on.
Take care. Oh, I'm in the mood now.
I'm in the mood.
I'm in the mood for this. Let's have it. St. Patrick's Day, people. Let's let rip. But also do it extremely responsibly. Right, who better to ask than our Northern Ireland reporter, Dougie Beattie, who I imagine is also very much in the mood for Paddy's Day. Dougie, where are you now, and what are you doing this St. Patrick's Day?
Well, I'm at the Old Downshire Hospital. This is where the start of the parade is happening. Earlier on, I was up at the church. All the good people are up there now doing the whole mass and worship thing, and all the other regions are down here. Those that will drink the green beer tonight, they're all in and around this region. And you can see the Bull of Cooley behind me. It's, of course, Irish myths and legend. It was about a king and a queen married to one another, couldn't stand one another, coveted everything each other had. One got a white bull, the other one got a brown one. One killed the other bull. Moral of the story, be happy what you have, no matter how rich you are. You don't need a myth and legend to tell you that. But yeah, St. Patrick's Day has been missed in Ireland, right across the island. It's celebrated across the world, but particularly in the island. It starts off as a public holiday and then turns into a weekend. And quite a weekend it is. And last night I went to Belfast with the St. Patrick's Eve concert. It's pretty much a family event, and I caught up down there and took a bit of the time to take a bit of flavour of what was happening.
So for Patrick's Day, there's a whole range of events at the minute. If you come along tomorrow, Beat Carnival are having their carnival pageant, the St. Patrick's Day parade, that's going to leave at 1 o'clock from the City Hall, travel down Royal Avenue, and it's a new, innovative way of having the parade. They've invested a lot of time in working with the singers, with the dancers. It's going to be a whole story, and their story is "We're All Patrick."
And what a great night it was last night. It went on into the wee small hours, and it worked very, very well. And here I was on at breakfast this morning, talking in front of a place of worship. But anyway, I didn't put my green suit on purposely. I'm very small of stature, and something might have came out here, netted me, and looked for my gold. Would have had a hard time, I can tell you.
I was going to say, when you said about that, I was wondering, does anybody think about the religious aspect of this at all, or is that completely lost and it's just basically one big booze fest? A bit like Christmas, where nobody sort of thinks of the story behind it.
Well, it's like anything in Ireland, Ireland's known as a partying place. If you ever want to come to Ireland, come on St. Patrick's weekend. It's no mistake, it's not a fluke. It is not a fluke that St. Patrick's is right in the middle of Lent.
Oh, goodness. Very good.
Oh, Dick, I wish it was St. Patrick's Day every single day.
Well, it is, because you are Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. Get Dougie Beattie in full flow. You love it. You love to see it. Thank you very much. All right. Well, enjoy tonight anyway, and have a couple for me. All right. Dougie Beattie, of course. I love those.
What, on top of the ones you're having for yourself?
Yeah. There's not enough Guinness in the world. I might just put my head under the tap. Anyway, right, OK. Obviously, don't do that, anyone. Anyway, so that's it for us. No, we're going to go to views. We're going to go to views. That's right.
Well, I've got a view from Paul here. Now, this is lovely because I think I might go to Ireland and get myself a nice Irish man. She says, Paul says, I introduced my mum to an Irish man on a blind date, and they got married the following year on St. Patrick's Day. Oh. And they've been together now for 5 years at their caravan in Mablethorpe at the moment, and they love it there. Isn't
That's
it nice?
Really
what a romantic
nice.
Little thing that is.
That is good, actually.
Aww.
Yes, double celebrations on St. Patrick's Day for you then. That's fantastic. Yeah, really nice stuff. I mean, I think the Irish are internationally renowned as being quite attractive, aren't they, as people?
But you're half Irish, aren't you? That's why you're saying
yeah,
it.
it's the bad half of me, then, unfortunately.
No, I love green. Green's my favourite colour, actually. So
same.
Yeah, I love green. Green is my favourite colour.
Well,
and purple.
Right, why is the obsession with St Patrick's Day when St George's Day will pass with hardly a mention? And that's from Peter. It's an interesting point, that, Peter, I suppose. But, I mean, I suspect it's got something to do with Guinness.
I think, no, do you know what? I think the UK should actually celebrate St George's Day as well. And it's a shame, it's a travesty that we don't really do anything. It's time for us to create some sort of celebration and have a proper day off, really, and people really celebrate it. Because it just... It's just the day, and then do we even have a day off for St George's Day?
To be honest with you, it's bad, this, isn't it? I'm actually not sure.
I don't know either.
We should definitely be doing a lot more for it. You know, celebrating obviously English culture, as it were, and yeah, lots of you, of course, been getting in touch as well. Actually, just on the issue, we had Gemma Aitchison on, and she was talking about the fact that she was, attacked basically by a load of trans activists.
Well, a trans in particular, so a trans woman who's actually a biological man, so would have been considerably quite strong, which is, that's a worry that should be happening.
I thought it was absolutely shocking stuff, that. And I'm just really concerned that that's where we are now, society, But anyway, yes, there we go. Right, OK, well, look, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure to have you all on board for this show. But we're going to just sneak in another couple of your views just before we disappear and probably get to the pub. I used to work in a very posh restaurant in California. And you would imagine the busiest day of the year would be New Year's. Not at all. Overwhelmingly, it was St Patrick's Day. The Americans love St Patrick's Day.
I know they've got a very big sort of Irish community, and they're very passionate about the Irish as well. And those who have migrated to America, who are Irish, always really, they're very proud of their own heritage as well. And it's a very nice thing to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a feel-good day, isn't it? So, look, I wish you all a very, very happy St Patrick's Day, and I hope that you all really, really enjoy it, and you get some good stew in you, get some good Guinness in you.
Oh, yes.
Dance the night away.
Don't forget to wear your lucky shamrock as well. Listen, that's it from us.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you, Patrick. Thank you so much. Gloria Di Piona is next for the briefing. Smooth.
Seamless.
Hello again. Spring sunshine to come for all of us over the next few days. Today, not everywhere seeing sunny skies, but we do have plenty of it, certainly across the south. And in that sunshine, it feels quite mild. Further north, we do have some showers around, low pressure and some weather fronts. But in the south, this high pressure is building in, bringing, as I say, a sunny day, certainly across much of southern England and to eastern England too. Further north, we're having more clouds and some showers over northern England, North Wales, maybe one or two drifting into southeast Wales and the Midlands. Certainly plenty of showers coming into Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly of rain, but some snow over the hills across the Highlands. Not too many showers this afternoon for Northern Ireland. Mostly dry and bright here. And temperatures here in Belfast, Glasgow, up to 10 or 11. But further south, 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees.